I'm Anna.
And I'm Kent.
And this is Film and Family, a podcast about feature filmmaking for professionals in the film industry with families. Hit subscribe to never miss an episode.
Let's jump right in.
We have two very special guests today, our friends Emma and Cooper Sutton. Did I say that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Sutton's not really that hard to...
I'm just, I don't know if I've said it out loud in front of them. I became self-conscious. Emma and Cooper are a married couple. They are living in Utah right now, but they've also been living in New York. And we went to film school the same time as them and have worked with them as actors. They're both actors. And we're really excited to talk to them about what it's like for them to balance being married and both doing acting and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. Thanks you guys so much. We're geeking out just getting to talk to you again.
No, it's great to be talking with you both.
It's fun.
Okay. Well, let's see. Where do we start?
So why don't we start with explaining how we know each other and then how you guys came to know each other and how you got into film. So I guess I know you both from film school, from seeing you act. I think I saw you act in different short films or projects before I'd ever met you actually in person. It's one of those weird things where you know someone's face and then you meet the real person. And so then met both of you at different points. And
yeah, it was probably the same for me. I think I saw, both of you, I think in homework assignments in classes, and then you get to know each other. And then I just remember watching professors break down performances and stuff with you guys in it and feeling like, I think at first it was Cooper, because I think you did a little bit more of that kind of homework stuff with other students. Emma, you did a lot of theater.
I think I saw Emma first.
Okay.
Yeah, in, what was it, like a 6-week cinema commercial or something? It might have been that.
Yeah, the one that Taylor Davis did.
Yeah, it was like my makeup was based off of, was it Peggy or whoever that model was? But it was set in like the 70s or something.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I picked up on the 70s
I don't know if that's
thing.
the first one I saw you in or if it was something else. But I remember seeing both of you act together as well in something. Yeah. I can't remember what.
There was we did a couple.
So from the one from Brooklyn, the movie Brooklyn.
I just remember you were sitting on a ledge in like a little hallway under stairs.
That was Brittany Toulson's 285 final.
Yep. That was one of the first.
I remember that specific homework assignment. I remember Jeff Parkin breaking it down and stopping it and like pointing at Cooper's face and being like, do you see how he's listening? And I think that was when I was like, Jeff was, I think that's a very big compliment for Jeff to stop a short and point something like that out where he's like, notice how he's in this at this moment. You can feel it. It's feeling really good. And that was helpful for me, actually. So Cooper, you really contributed to my film education because he kind of broke down your performance in that way. And it was really nice. And you guys both, I remember just doing really good work in school and stuff. So that was the beginnings. At that same time was when Emma introduced us to this concept of this mythical place called Peachtree City. And we were like, well, yeah, neat, whatever. Golf cart place. Sounds neat.
That's the other funny story is that Emma's actually from Peachtree City where we now live. So it's kind of a small world thing.
Had no intention whatsoever of ever living there. Even when we decided to move to Georgia, I did not think we would end up living here. And then, love happens and we decided we wanted to live here forever. And we'll see what the future brings, but if nothing changes, we'll be stuck in Peachtree City until we're dead. So,
great place. I don't know. I'm jealous. I'd love to go back.
Well, we'll see what the future brings. So we're still...
Exactly.
Maybe we can find a reason to bring you out here.
We'll get you guys out here for some reason or another. But so then you guys went to New York.
Well, before we get to that, you said that scene was one of the first. Does that mean it was like one of the first times you guys met each other or just acted with each other? Where were you in your relationship at that point?
We first met in school as well, just in one class we had where we were doing a theater project together. So that was the very beginning, just kind of acting across from each other
In a play.
stage play. Yeah. And then with all the different homework assignments that film came about, I think we were dating by the time we started those.
Yeah, we were definitely dating.
We already started dating, which was interesting. We got awful close, awful quick.
Yeah.
With a lot of those scenes.
Well, the first play that class where we met was just doing a play, and we'd never met before this class. And then that first day of class, we got cast as husband and wife for the play.
That's amazing.
And, I mean, our program was so small. I thought I knew everyone in the acting program. And then all of a sudden this new guy walks in and I'm like, who's this guy? And then we get cast as husband and wife. And I'm like, what? It was crazy. And yeah, so it was fun. And then we ended up having to switch the play. And then we got cast as brother and sister. So, and by that point,
a little speed bump.
Yeah. And then, we started doing film stuff. And it was that scene we did may have been the first film thing I'd really ever done. I hadn't done film before that. I'd only ever done theater. And so Cooper was really into doing like these film projects and things. And so then I kind of got introduced to doing them, and we did that together. And I remember I was just terrified. I had no idea what I was doing. You always think, oh, I do theater acting, I can do film. And then you do it and you're like, whoa, you're really close to my face. You know, it's so much more nuanced and things like that. And it was fun.
And of course, the best time was when we got in our class with you, and then got to learn more about what you do and work on projects with both of you. And it was fantastic.
Wait, now,
That
that class I was not a part of. You're referring to the advanced directing for actors, and for you, it was considered a different, right? Yours was
advanced
acting for film.
Yeah.
acting for film.
That's right.
For us,
And you were both in that class. Okay, yeah, I think I remember that now, because I kind of watched
You
that
weren't in
from a
the class,
distance. I
but
wasn't in
yeah.
the class, but
I remember you'd come by a lot with the kids.
Yeah.
I think that's how I first met you.
I don't think
Got by with the kids.
I ever actually was in that. I never showed up to that class.
No, not
I showed
showing
up. I showed up to the finals.
Probably in the hallways in between.
Yeah,
Just
Yeah.
switching off
Exactly.
babies between classes.
Yeah,
I'm sure that was.
I know we did some 285 work with you, Emma, live with Jeff. You guys did a scene that he did, the master. He did like a million takes on the master, and then we never got to do coverage because class time ran out. That Kramer versus Kramer scene.
Yeah, I never got to see the final product. He promised.
I don't think
Oh,
I don't think there was a final product, to be frank. But it was very helpful for all of us to kind of shoot that thing and, watch you workshop. And I know that at the time you were still kind of feeling like you were more of a theater actress. And I actually remember Jeff saying, she says that, but she's got a very filmic quality about her. I think you have a natural presence on camera. I think you actually have a natural intuition for performing to camera. So that was another thing. Jeff likes you both apparently a lot, and that's a big thing. That's a big deal. So
So he was a great mentor there. Really.
Yeah. We loved any chance we got. We did a couple other things for him for classes. And anytime he asked, we were like, yes, please. Thank you.
Jump at it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah,
we love
yeah.
that. I remember you and Brando Cooper did that weird. I say weird because it was contextless, but it was like a scene that I think Jeff had written for like this mermaid film.
Yep. Called Trucker at the time we did it was the current title then. Yeah, I still have no idea what the entire story was about. We shot that scene where he came up and he was like, I got this truck full of mermaids. You want to drive it? And I was like, all right. Like, it doesn't get much better than that. So that's where me and Brando really bonded. Yeah.
That scene worked really well, though. I was surprised at how serious of a movie it seemed.
Yeah.
For as strange of a jumping off point as that.
No. And the way he just framed everything in that studio there in the basement of BYU, he turned that thing into this carnival set that I never could have imagined while being on set.
Yeah.
Because all we had were these little chairs, a little light rack, and then a wall. But somehow the shots he got, the lights he put in, just completely turned it around.
Oh yeah, it was
Yeah.
so convincing.
I
He
didn't
told
ever-
us afterwards that he filmed it in a little room.
The A room is what
we
it was
were all
called.
shocked.
It sounds like something from Mr. Rogers' Land of Make Believe or something like
I know.
from the castle. The A room. And what are they called in the acting world? Those black
Apple
boxes.
boxes.
They're not apple boxes, are they?
What do we call them?
Oh man, we call them
The blocks.
Oh yeah, it's very, very scientific. Blocks.
I was just gonna call them like the black boxes or something.
We're just grown-ups with bigger toys. That's all.
It's really what it is. Yeah.
Make our couches and
Exactly.
But he used some of those, I feel like, in that
He did.
too. I can't remember. But yeah, then he just did this really nice establishing shot and then some nice sound design. And I remember we were all like, wait, what? You shot that in the A room? Like,
oh. No, I was jealous. He got
Wow.
that beautiful scene, and then in my Kramer versus Kramer, I got nothing.
yeah. Oh.
Well, I feel honored that I saw your first. I didn't realize that little video was your first time doing film. And
Yeah.
I remember everyone talking about you guys were actually dating because there was some chemistry and we're like, I think they're actually dating. If I remember right. It was something like that.
Well, that's, yeah.
So now
Hollywood
I feel
for you.
honored that I got to witness that. That's so funny that you were cast as a married couple.
But then demoted in the same play, is that what I understood? To brother sister?
Well, yeah, they
the same
switched
class.
in the same class. We weren't allowed to do that play anymore because there was too much language. So we switched to a different play, and so then got recast. But if we hadn't have switched plays, we honestly may not have started dating because it was the day that they canceled class because we weren't allowed to do that play anymore. And our professor was like, "Okay, I'm canceling class because I need to go find a different play." That we ended up going off and talking for 3 hours and
Wow. Maybe
So then
acting.
you could really become husband and wife
Yeah,
instead of
yeah.
just acting.
You guys are so method.
yeah.
That's serious dedication. Because you're just expecting that play to still happen. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Right.
I was really hoping for it. And then
Yeah,
go
we'll
to-
stay married until it does.
Well, we better never do it then.
No, yeah, never. Oh, man, that's funny.
I've been waiting 4.5 years.
That's awesome. Well, that will be a short film that will just get better with time and we'll brag about it for the rest of your lives. So let's just talk about this for a minute. So Anna and I are both behind the camera and we're a married couple. And you guys are both in front of the camera and you're a married couple. And so we'd love to maybe explore that a little bit and talk about what is that like in general? Would you recommend it? I guess, I don't know.
Did you ever imagine you'd be married to another actor? And if so, or if not,
Is it like, wow, this is super awesome? Or
is
like,
it
wow,
great
this is
or
really
is it
hard?
hard
Yeah,
or
like-
what, what's it like?
Yeah. Well, you can go with that one because I know your answer.
Oh, I don't know my answer.
Oh.
Well,
Tell us Emma's answer.
so growing up and things like that, I always thought I would never marry an actor.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I never thought I'd marry an actor because I was always like, well, I need someone that's going to like pay so that I can become an actor. And so I was like, oh no, I don't think I could handle both being in the acting world. He'd probably be too dramatic or I don't know. I always thought I'd not marry someone in the acting world. But then like in college, I dated people who weren't in the acting world. And I dated one guy who was all of a sudden dated me and was like, I'm going to go audition for a play. And I was like, why are you doing that? Like, you're not an actor. And then another guy I dated, he hated theater, but I was like, can you come see this play with me? And he was like, I guess, but then he hated it. And it was just always this weird, difficult thing between us because they didn't want me to kiss other people or they just didn't get it. And then I dated Cooper and it was just so easy. He understood the hard, the good, the things like that. And we had classes together and we're just in the same world. And it just felt like someone who finally understood me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You guys are so cute.
Well, I mean, I'll just say in your defense, Anna still says that she'll never be married to an actor, and that it would be a deal breaker if I decided to transition into acting. So
There's certain professions I wouldn't marry. I wouldn't marry a doctor either.
that's good. Yeah.
Sorry, nothing personal.
okay.
Just
Personal
But-
preference, gotta stick with them.
No, that's funny. No, but I remember I had a similar feeling where I was like, oh man, after dating Anna, I was like, I don't know if anyone's going to be able to tolerate listening to me talk about ideas and movies and all this other stuff. I'm kind of extroverted. I don't mean that in like I'm the most confident person ever, but in the sense that I think out loud. And that's probably
you do.
obvious. It's probably obvious to podcast listeners, but yeah. And so I was like, if I marry someone who's not into this, it's just going to become a strain on the marriage. and it was really just after dating Anna, it was like, wow, this is really great because I can actually listen to her, and she has, I mean, we'll talk about ridiculous film theory. I remember one time, I don't know why, we were in the middle of Sharon Swenson? Did you guys ever meet her?
I don't think I met her.
No, she taught film theory and some of the more like, you wouldn't have interacted with her on a production sense. But she was super awesome. And she retired actually while we were at BYU, but she was just a gem. And we were taking her theory class, and I remember you and I getting on this hour-long kick explaining film theory to your mom. Like explaining these really crazy historical theoretical concepts. It was really us, I think, struggling to get through that class because it was very taxing. And I think just spilling the beans out loud to someone else who knew nothing about it was helpful for us. But I still wonder, like, how did she sit there and listen?
My poor mom is a good
What
listener.
a remarkable listener that she would sit there through that. She's like a high school counselor. So that's why she's probably so good at listening, honestly.
Jeff would have said, now look how she's listening.
Yeah.
Yes, what an accomplishment.
She's great.
Oh, man. So I can understand why you would say that. There's this understanding that comes with it, that it's not a requirement, and all sorts of people will have different lives, but it's kind of rare. I know very few married actor couples. I mean, obviously, let's just pretend celebrities don't count. Like, but like, A-list actors don't count.
Where they start out married.
Yeah, where they start out married together and they're both acting. That's pretty rare, I think. But
I mean, it comes with its difficulties too.
yeah, let's talk about those.
What's hard about it?
Well, I mean, it's hard not comparing yourself to each other,
That's very true.
I think that has been probably the biggest thing, especially like when we moved out to New York City, it's so expensive. So I was just like, I'll get a job. I'll get a full-time job and you go and you act. I acted like such a martyr. I was like, I'm going to do this for you. And then I'm sitting there watching him, do classes, go out to Utah, film a movie as I'm sitting in an office doing what I hate. And so then, you get a little bitter but then because of that year and a half, now I'm a year and a half behind him. He was taking these steps. And so now he gets auditions, he gets things, and it's hard not to compare yourself and be like, well, your life is so much easier than mine, like pity me. But
No,
That's true.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm constantly pitying you. And that's so difficult in a relationship. That's not true at all. Yeah, it is. It's a constant struggle because as actors, it's very rare that you're ever acting together. It's not something that you're doing together because you're usually casting someone else's project. You have no control of kind of equaling it out or sharing and giving. It's just whatever comes your way a lot of the time. And that has been not fun a lot of the time too. Because when you get something, you're super excited, but then you're also just like, you don't want to celebrate too much. And then if someone else gets something, well, you're super happy for them, but you're also a little depressed on the side. So that is a constant, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're kind of each other's competition at the same time.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Companions are.
That reminds me of when I got into BYU and my sister was really mad because she really wanted to go to BYU. And so anyway, I just imagine that that's probably the dynamic, but maybe on a more constant basis. But I think Anna and I can relate to that, to be honest.
Definitely.
I think we've...
Even today, this morning, we were kind of having a little bit of an argument about this.
No,
We've never argued.
Oh, yeah, I forgot we're on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Just kidding. No, yeah, we were talking about how, we started our business together, but then I was having babies. And so I kind of dropped out for a little bit and he was doing more of the work. And now it's like, oh, his side of the business, we kind of have our sides of the business or whatever. His part of the business is way more successful, but yet financially, but still I dropped out for so long that I was taking care of babies and raising our kids that I kind of do feel behind the same way. It's always sort of a sacrifice every time. And even for him to let me do work is a sacrifice. There's always that give and take and feeling like, can we make it fair and still progress together?
What does that mean?
Yeah, what does that look like?
Yeah. So
and not hold each other back.
I mean, it's been interesting because our skill sets have changed so much over the years, and that Anna and I were pretty equally yoked in terms of we would shoot and edit a lot, but neither of us were superb at it. We were very young. We'd barely gotten into the film program at our school. We'd grown up doing random stuff, but it wasn't like we really knew what we were doing. And then we started having kids, and that's when I think I started to really figure out a lot on the technical end of filmmaking. And then I actually think that in some ways that's been good, because I have become such a minutia focused person, and you've stepped into the director's chair a little more, because I mean, you never stopped thinking that way, and you finished your degree in directing and everything. And so I'll edit a film and you'll stop and be like, why are we telling this story? And I'm like, I don't know, but this cut isn't working. You're like, yeah, but why are we telling this story? Why did we write this script, and what was the purpose of it, and what emotion are we trying to create? And it always forces me to step back. So there's pros and cons to it, but our skill sets have changed, I think. And it's really easy to make money when you're good at pushing the buttons and getting the exposure and cutting and using the technology. People just need it.
Yeah, you've way surpassed me and all that stuff.
Well, but Steve Yedlin, who's the DP of Last Jedi, Knives Out, he talks about, like, I was working regularly before my best friend, Ryan Johnson, was directing anything, because directors, their career trajectory is just different. So it just takes a very long time before that first feature. He's going to take 6 years after he's graduated from film school to even get it off the ground. Whereas as a DP, I can just go out of school and just work like crazy. And so by the time Ryan Johnson's film got done, he was like, oh, my best friend has DP'd all this stuff. He's like, and the producer was like, great, let him do it. He'll do it for $100 a day or whatever. And so I talking about ourselves and all, but.
So I'm curious, do you guys have any tips or things you've learned as you've had to work out that dynamic that help you balance it out, or help you know when do we support the other person who's in charge of making the money versus pursuing the passion projects, or how do you negotiate?
How do you
that?
support each other and try and like make that successful? Yeah.
I think something we realized after, I took that 1.5 years of saying, I'm going to work all time, we realized that doesn't work. If, neither person should have to completely give up doing what they love. And so it definitely got a lot better once we're like, okay, we're both just going to work part-time to, have to support us and get the money. So that's kind of the thing we found out, at least when it comes to just having a steady income. We both just work part-time. And then on our days off is when we just focus on our career and crafts and things like that.
That's true. I think a lot of people can say, well, I have to take a break from what I love just for a little bit so I can work out something, or someone else can take a chance. But if you love something and it's just all you can think about and all you're passionate about, taking a break really doesn't help you because during that time, all you're thinking about is, I wish I was doing something else. I wish this was different. And you're going to be miserable. So you have to find a way to at least have a little bit of what you love constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think it's so interesting.
You're gonna say something, Emma?
Oh, I think like it's easy to say, but you just can't compare yourself from, especially like we're so different. Our types are, the fact that we're a man and a woman, like the parts we're gonna get are so different. Even when we've auditioned for the same movie and he's gotten it and I didn't get the part I auditioned for, and it's just like, you just have to remember that every time. But I mean, very much easier said than done.
Oh yeah. No, I could see how that would be really difficult.
Yeah.
I really like what you said about not taking breaks. I mean, obviously breaks meaning for 6 months, I'm not going to act anymore.
The idea that you're going to switch off,
I'm gonna
completely set it aside.
Like these big, broad swings.
We tried the exact same thing.
Sabbaticals might be really healthy for some people. I know the guy who did My Octopus Teacher kind of goes over some of that, where he burnt out for a while, and that might be healthy. But if it's not because of burnout, if it's because of like, oh, I just need to be quote unquote responsible in this way, or I need to get a job or whatever. Yeah, I don't recommend that at all either, honestly. I feel like keep your foot, at least one foot in that world constantly. And it's like Dallin H. Oaks talks about the small and simple things, and talks about the root that just presses with an almost immeasurable amount of force over the course of a year will split a piece of concrete in half. And Noam Kroll talks about compounding effort, comparing it to compounding interest, and how he's like, if you just invest a little bit every month over the course of time, it actually turns into this massive investment, and the interest rolls over in a sort of exponential way. And felt that will be true in my life. And I'm seeing it, I think the beginnings of it, where it's like Ann and I split 4-hour days, 4 each kind of a thing. And that we've got kids already and we've got a lot of other responsibilities. And I remember Tom Russell in school saying, the people you guys compete with in LA are going to be putting in, they're going to wake up in the morning and do nothing but this.
Yeah.
And they're going to go to bed at night having done nothing but it. And they're going to sleep for 4 hours and then wake up and do nothing but this. And he said, most of you are not going to have that life. And I was already married and already a dad at that point. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I'm not going to LA and I can't room with 6 guys and split the rent in LA. And just lots of things aren't really on the table for me in that way. And so I've learned that you don't need it. You don't need to do that. I think what I've realized is that that's actually not maybe the best way, honestly.
Yeah, having balance seems to produce better work. And
these limitations, so to speak, are actually just like everything. Just like all limitations are actually really productive. They're actually really helpful. And I've learned to get more done in 4 hours than most people can get done in 8 when I'm focused. And that's not a bragging thing. It's just, it's
you learn to be efficient.
You get compelled to do that. And it sounds like you guys you're at the beginnings of this sort of like, all right, we've just learned we're both going to put in what we can and we'll support each other, but it's going to be more of a constant thing. And I think that'll pay huge dividends in the long-term future.
I think that a lot of people try to just take it one thing at a time and just say, okay, you go for a while and then I'll go for a while and then we'll have kids and then we'll do this. We kind of tried that at first as well. Like I was saying, we sort of tried like, okay, I'm going to stay home and watch the kids and you're going to work for a while. And I was just going crazy. I was like, I'm forgetting everything so fast. And it was all I could think about. I was distracted. I don't think I was a better mom because I was always thinking about something else I wanted to be doing. And I was envious of him, even when he was shooting weddings, something that I don't love, but I was still jealous. Like, you're out there shooting and eating yummy food. And like,
you do eat well when you shoot weddings.
Yeah. And so eventually we just said, we know we both want to do this. So we just need to both jump in and find our balance. And so we've always kind of been like, we talk about building a house, instead of just building one wall, you just build all the walls all the way around. And it takes longer, but then you have the full structure. It's not just one.
Yeah, it takes longer, but it lasts longer and it's stronger.
Yeah.
So otherwise it's the Warner Brothers lot. It's just like one wall, which would be a really bad situation.
False front. Yeah.
Well, it's a really bad situation when the winds of life blow. A very not aerodynamic flat surface is just going to fall right over. And
also if you live in it, if that's your life and you're living it and it feels empty, no one else has to know that, but you know it because you're living it. So I feel like I can relate a lot to what you're saying. It's interesting that we kind of swing far on the pendulum and then find something kind of in the middle.
Yeah. Well, I think the most important thing is I think starting out, we had this vision of what being an actor needed to look like. We had one end goal of, we had to be very famous, living in LA, doing big feature films. There was this one vision, and we've just come to realize it can look different than that for us. I've honestly been so impressed by Cooper, and a lot of times as an actor, you feel like your career is completely in other people's hands. You're like, well, I need a casting director to like me. I need an agent to find me auditions. You almost feel like everything needs to be handed to you, and then you have to be picked. And that was something that just really bothered us, especially when we moved out to Utah and we knew so many people in the industry. And I've been so impressed by Cooper. He's like, I'm going to buy a camera. I'm going to start learning about this. I'm going to start writing a script. And he's just really taking it into his own hands. And he was passionate about it. And he's like, I don't like people controlling it. Like, I want to have more of a control over the kinds of things I can do. And so it's just been really cool to, make it look like what you want to look like. You can't completely put your career in other people's hands. Otherwise, you just will never know what could happen.
I love this so much that I was going to ask, and I almost didn't want to ask, have you guys done any writing?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not something that we've done for a long time, and we're super veterans at. But over the last year and a half, we've been writing a lot more. Obviously, some shifts have happened in the world too, which allowed us to kind of change over and reflect on that more, which is great.
COVID was such a blessing for so many of us creatives, I feel like.
It really did. It opened up kind of a new necessity for creative pathways. So it's been really cool to see both of us and our writing styles come out and be shaped.
Because I think COVID, that was what finally made the switch in my mind of like, okay, we were in New York City through most of the pandemic, and it was like, everything's shut down. There's no films, there's no auditions. What are we going to do? We don't know how long this, shutdown's going to last. Let's use it as time to practice. And so I wrote some little things and it was just like, wow, I can actually do this. I never imagined myself even being able to, but it's a start. And so it was great finally having that shift in my mind of actually making my own things being a possibility.
That's awesome.
That's
and that reminds me of, it's like a somewhat anomaly of an example, but John Krasinski started in acting. He started to write a little bit more, and then he did one, I think, feature, maybe two. I think he did a couple, actually, before he landed the director role for A Quiet Place, which he cast his wife in, albeit he begged her to be in it. I remember just being thrilled to watch an actual married couple do a movie, and he was involved as a co-writer. He was kind of the rewriter on that movie, but his writing past had given him the experience to be able to do that, and then he had some directing experience, but he'd kind of taken the initiative to create those skills for himself. And it's like, you don't have to become a director, an actor or director or whatever, but just having those skills, it's like most of the most successful actors in history, and I feel like all filmmakers have some degree of multidisciplinary skills. And so I think that's
makes
super
you unstoppable.
Yeah.
And you can write stuff that's perfect for you. Your ideal role in the exact thing that you would want to do. You can write your spouse in if you want, that's so cool.
Well, Branda, our mutual friend, wrote a script because of other reasons that he was not able to
cast
do
himself
acting.
in it, and it was a perfect role for him.
Yeah, and it was incredible. It was an incredible script, and we helped him develop that project for a while, and it's super awesome, and it's going to be great when it comes to fruition. But yeah, I think that's really wise. I'm excited to hear that. We might have to talk after the podcast episode a little bit more about what all is going on there. But yeah, we did a whole episode on write your own role for not just actors, but anyone who's like feels like they're waiting for someone to make their career happen for them in any degree. And I think surprisingly, almost everyone in the film industry feels that way except producers. And producers, I think, actually feel the same way about their investors. They're like, I need someone to just give me the money, and then I'll be able to make these movies. And then the director's like, I need a producer to give me the job. And then the actors are like, I need
a director to hire
me or whatever. And the writers are like, I need someone to buy or option my script. And
the distributors are like, we need a really good film.
Yeah, we're all just waiting for each other. And then Chris McQuarrie, if you guys are familiar with who that is, directed the 5th and 6th Mission Impossibles. Mm-hmm. He did this whole awesome, it was Instagram or Twitter? Anyway, social media. You should look it up. Anyway, he talks about how he, as a writer, had like a 7-year stall in his career because he was expecting something to happen. And after he had enormous success, like I think he got an Academy Award nod. And then he was like, I just had to accept at one point, I'm just going to make movies. I want to be a writer, but if no one's going to give me those opportunities, I'm just going to have to make movies so that I can keep writing movies. So
it's great. I mean, there's no one who knows what you can do better than yourself. So it's just, it's really kind of foolish to think, well, someone else is going to write this perfect role and then I'll be able to shine. But they're not going to be able to put everything in. I mean, I started out as a tap dancer, and there were very few acting roles that have anything to do with tap in the film industry. So it's so rare that you find something if you don't do it yourself in that regard.
Man, this is a lot of good information, Cooper. I didn't know you started as a tap dancer.
No, people do. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, to be honest, I'm a better tap dancer than I am an actor.
No, I don't know. They're very equal, but he is a phenomenal tap dancer.
This is really good news. Yeah. All right. So hopefully not everyone listening to the podcast today is a producer who wants to make Cooper into a famous tap dancing actor, the next Gene Kelly.
As long as he
That-
still does it with us.
Well, I guess
you
that's
know,
true. I don't mind if anyone
fine.
does that. No, you're welcome to him, just as long as we get him afterwards.
And he sings incredible, like crooner, like he's it all. He really is a modern Gene Kelly.
A modern triple threat. That's good. Well, we'll talk about that after too.
So this is interesting because it has actually been a while since we've talked to each other, and I was a little bit privy to some of the things you're bringing up. It's interesting to see where you've come from, where we were. So Cooper and Emma both did this coaching program with me, and at the time it was just private coaching for 6 weeks, so not exactly the program that it is today, but
Beta.
yeah, it was kind of the beta version, and I did it with each of them individually, even though they're still living, in the same space. So I don't know, you probably heard a lot of each other's coaching, but I'm curious, what has changed? I kind of can see it, but what has changed for you, like before when we were in New York? And I remember that time, and I don't want to share anything, that you're not comfortable sharing. So I'll let you share it. What was it like then?
Anything you're uncomfortable sharing, I'll let you do.
I just don't feel obligated to share anything personal. But from then and then doing the coaching, did you feel like that made any difference in some of the things you've just expressed?
Oh, definitely. I'd say. I remember, because just so everyone knows, we were in New York. It was a really slow time, I would say, for our careers when we went through the coaching too. It was something where I felt stuck. I wasn't booking much. And I was really just trying to figure out where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. And everything was up in the air, I felt like. But going through that and just having the opportunity to kind of reflect about myself with someone else that I just would never normally do helped me realize more and more that I can find solutions to all the things I've just been like frustrated about. For example, I just didn't understand what I could do to better my career when it was up to other people to cast me. And I'm so stuck in that rut that I was just trying to audition. And it never occurred to me to take a step back and think, okay, well, what else can I do? What other interests do I have that I can still find fulfillment in while I'm going through this difficult time? And talking with Emma more to actually just like talk about it, because it's all bundled up in my head when I'm going through it. But I just never really vocalized it, never really understood it. And I broke it down, and that's what turned into starting to write my own projects. That's what turned into buying the camera. That's what turned into trying to mesh all of my different talents together into a cohesive project. So it really kind of took it apart piece by piece and organized it, I'd say.
Man. I'd say for me, it was helpful to talk to someone else about. I think mine was a lot more emotional. I had all of this emotional baggage I was carrying, worrying so much about what other people were thinking of me. Like I put so much weight on others to tell me how to feel about myself and about my life. And so I think coaching, the model and everything of breaking down my thoughts. Okay, where is this coming from? What is an actual truth and what is just my ideas? These things, and learning that you can't control what other people think. You can't control what they do or what they say about you. You're the one that has to decide that stuff for yourself. And so it just helped me take control of that a lot more, because I think I was letting my emotions and worries control a lot of that. And I was just getting back into acting at that point. I remember I just quit the full-time job, got a part-time job, and was trying to get back into the acting world. And the coaching helped me so much just get into a more healthy mindset of taking control of my life, my emotions, my goals, to get into it and prepared to do that.
Yeah, it's so cool to see what you're doing now, because, we didn't get to that during the coaching. That's stuff that you guys took, those tools, and extrapolated and kind of created your own solutions. I remember you being kind of both stuck in those different areas and working through it, but it's cool to see where that has led now down the road. And I'm excited for you. I think you've come to some really great conclusions that will help you take control of your career. So that's exciting.
Yeah, it helped us take big steps too, because I don't think, had we not taken the time to think about it, that we would have moved, honestly.
Yeah.
Because we were so just dead set on being amazing in New York and being successful. I think we would have just kind of kept beating the pavement there in a way that really wasn't working for us. And that's when we decided, when things shut down, it's just like, okay, we actually had the courage to pack up and move back across country towards the things that we really wanted to do. And film is that. And I feel like as great as New York is and as much amazing film that happens there, it's also very theater based. And I don't know, obviously everyone has their own path, but for us, it was a lot easier to get into film elsewhere, not in New York. And I don't think we would have taken that leap had we not thought about that through the training.
I remember talking with Anna, because I remember right in the beginning, right when I quit the job and got the part-time job, I told Anna, I was like, and I think I just want to move to Utah. And I just remember Anna being like, well, why though? Are you just running away from a difficult situation?
Yeah.
Or do you really want to make this move? And so it helped me to step back, make sure I wasn't running away from New York. And I remember, so I stepped back, I took some workshops there. I really tried to explore there. And it was during it was right after the pandemic had started. So there wasn't a ton going on, but I still tried to grasp as much as New York as I could. So now having left, I felt like we really gave it a shot. You never want to leave and then be like, oh, but what if? But, I remember we made the pros and cons list and all the things to make sure we were moving for the right reasons. And so now it really feels like it was a good thought out decision and we're really happy with it.
Yeah, I love that. I remember, a lot of times we want to just change our circumstances and we believe, oh, if I just lived somewhere else, if I just had a camera, if I just had whatever, my life would be so much easier. And I love that you guys did those things, but not because you thought it would change everything necessarily, but because you liked your reasons. And you didn't believe that it would make you happier. You can make choices just because you want to, or just because it's, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it's like you're not just changing the circumstance, you're changing yourself and then changing your circumstance.
Yeah, and I think I've experienced this a lot where I'm often also prone to worrying about what other people think of me. And I get caught up reading about filmmakers or filmmaking, the way certain people run workflow on set, or the way certain directors manage sets, the way certain people logistically do things. And for some reason, whenever I read anything, I'm like, oh, that's the way it's supposed to be. That's the should way to do it, And I feel like you guys are like, this is how you're supposed to do it as an actor. The acting, like you were saying, the acting success looks like XYZ, and if it's not that, then it's not legit, it's not real, it doesn't count. It doesn't count because no one will look at me and say this counts. I don't know, I don't speak for you, but that is definitely something I feel like I've struggled with. And what I've realized is, I don't know, there's only like infinity ways that count. What really counts is, are you doing exactly what you love doing? Are you reaching people? And are you making a livable living out of it? And I don't cap myself. I'm not just like, as long as I can pay my bills. I'm like, I have every intention of being as successful as, sky's the limit. But there's no prescribed way that must happen. On good days, I remember that. And so, I think what's where we've started to kind of, when we make those bold decisions, like you guys deciding to move, or Anna and I deciding we're trying to get this feature film funded, we have this window of time where the next opportunity is next September. So let's, in the next 3 months, write a script and shoot it for a shoestring and make a feature now. Making those kinds of crazy decisions, or even more like personal decisions, like we're going to buy a house right now. Doesn't seem very possible, but like, let's just do it. But these big scary things where you're like, moving to Georgia, big moves are something I hear people bring up a lot. In fact, a lot of the people you've coached, Anna, have made big moves or are in the process of making big moves across country, not just because they're seeking better circumstances or opportunity, but because they've decided this feels better for me, this feels better for my family, this feels better for my career. And for one reason or another, they aren't letting themselves think it was possible or appropriate or the way you should do it or whatever. And And you get over that and you just say, no, this is what's right for me. And I'm going to do that different thing. And I'm going to go to Utah or Georgia or New York or LA or who cares where you go, you know, you figure out the best place for you and then you make that work. So
you find the solutions that's uniquely tailored to your situation as opposed to what everyone else does that seems like the standard thing.
Well, doesn't
to
that
do.
make bad art anyway if we just copy what everyone else does because we think it's the way we should be doing it? And the more we embrace our own uniqueness and we say, well, this is kind of how I do it, and it feels really right to do it this strange way that no one else saw, like,
or that no one else has done. Well, we're just gonna try it.
That's actually why people usually go sensationals, because it's like, that's so interesting, that different way of doing it. So
yeah.
Anyway, long tangent there from Kent, but yeah, I guess I just get stoked when I hear about people who are like, there's these big life decisions that were really hard to make, and then you apply these tools of the model, and these big life decisions happen, and they happen faster, and it's exciting to see those hard things happen and materialize. And so I don't know.
Yeah.
Excited about that for you guys. So
that's kind of like your before and after. In the middle, were there any like big takeaways that stand out to you that we haven't mentioned?
Well, it's crazy because I mean it's so hard to define the middle when you look at them. But I think the greatest thing about it all is you just learn, whether it's like finding balance and not taking breaks or things like that. But each little step you take is a reassurance that you can take steps, and it just builds on each other, because as soon as we decided to move, and every time we've made a big decision, it has just snowballed future things. And it doesn't always happen in the career wise or the relationship itself, but just in life in general, where one good thing always leads to like 7 more. And it just is incredible to see how much happier we are now after we went and took that step to believe in ourselves and really understand what we needed. Mm-hmm. And once we did that, I mean, just in the career too, thinking of New York, I did one show there and then I came here, and just the amount of auditions in general skyrocketed. Had so many more. And that's not going to be the case for everybody, but that is what happened for me and for her as well. So I think the middle was just filled with laughter and surprise at all of these things that were happening. I do believe that happens every time that you choose to invest in yourself and believe in you in whatever regard.
Yeah, just taking the step. I think it's always the hardest is just to start. I know, like, whenever one of us is wanting to do something, he's like, I should write, but I don't have an idea. I told him, just type something. Just start putting words down. Like, the hardest thing is just starting. And so I think that was, the middle was just, believing in ourselves to take a step, even if it was the smallest thing of watching a workshop or something. It was just, it's those little steps that you take to believe in yourself that then eventually lead to the bigger things that you're like, wow, I didn't think I could ever get here.
Yeah, you know what I think of when I hear you guys express this idea of all these little things like compound, and they actually have these ripple effects in, like, a good career choice can actually improve a marriage, or a marriage improvement can actually, change your relationship with your career and all these other parts of your life. And I think about, I do this, I think, at least once an episode, right? Where I've got this great idea. I have this really important thing to contribute, and I space it. The thing was...
Should we come back to you?
Yeah, come back to me. Go to the other students in the class. I'll be ready to share. I'll be ready to share when you get back around.
Good thing there's 4 of us, so we've got enough people. It's okay. I don't feel like you usually forget stuff.
What?
But
You're just forgetting.
Yeah, I'm the one forgetting. That always happens. Well, I was thinking about what you were saying, Emma. I think for a lot of people, the hardest thing is just to take that first step forward.
And I just remembered.
Say it before you forget.
Wait. So Brooke Castillo, who is one of Anna's principal coaches in her certification program was through Brooks Life Coach School. It talks about learning new skills, and we always worry about like what's the most important skill to learn. And she kind of describes, well, maybe our ability to learn new skills quickly and deeply is one of the most important skills to learn. And then you'll be able to learn all the other important things that are individually useful. And what you guys are describing is like, what is the best decision to make? And it's really actually maybe the skill of making decisions and feeling confident in those decisions and being able to make big or scary decisions. The better you get at that, you guys were kind of expressing that. It was like once we made that first really big decision, suddenly we were able to start making changes in our lives more deliberately. Anyway, that's kind of, I guess maybe some of what I was hearing in that, where like our ability to learn, our ability to make decisions is maybe more important than the specific decisions we make or the specific skills we learn, because you can keep that with you for your whole life. It's like doing things to make money isn't as important as learning and understanding money deeply or having a skill that is super valuable, because you could bankrupt Steven Spielberg. He's going to be a millionaire next year because he knows how to make movies really, really well. And like people will pay him millions of dollars just to do one film. And then he's probably got really good at investing his money over the years. And so he'll probably know how to invest that money in a way that's really productive. So he's learned how to deal with money as opposed to just making a few dollars and like scraping it. It's like a third metaphor I was trying to extend: the learning skills, making decisions, and also just like understanding money. The money part was maybe a little tangential.
No, I think you're saying he could lose everything but still have his skills and he'd be able to make it back.
Right. I mean, even if you make a bad decision, it's like you're still good at making the hard decisions. And so you just keep doing that. And you can't lose that.
Well, and interestingly enough, I think a lot of people who do go through the coaching, we talk a little bit about decision making, and I think also just understanding where your brain is making decisions from. Is it a place of fear, or is it something you feel confident or good about, is helpful. But what's interesting is I think it's hard for some people to, before they have those tools, make the decision to learn them in the first place. And I'm just kind of curious, what made you decide to do it? Because I mean, did you even know what life coaching was? I think a lot of people are like, what is that? That seems really weird. Like, what were your doubts, or why did you decide to do it?
Yeah, I think I had heard like one other person I knew had kind of started life coaching, and I remember when she talked about it, she had said she had tried therapy and therapy didn't work for her. So then she went to life coaching, and that's what made her finally change her life. And I was like, that's kind of confusing. So is it like therapy? Like, I didn't really get what it was. And so then when you came to us and were like, hey, I want you to try out this, class I'm trying out, and I want, to help you with decision making, it just sounded interesting how you were able to explain it, and, just taking steps in your life and understanding yourself better just felt good, especially because I had, things had just changed in my life with going from the full-time job to the part-time and getting back into the acting world, where I did feel unsteady in my life. And so it just made sense to try to, take control of that and learn how to do that.
And I don't think I've really known much about life coaching at all. And the funny thing is, as you grow up in a lot of places too, therapy gets such a bad rep, where it's just like, man, you're broken if you go to therapy. So things like that, or that kind of image. And I think I grew up with a lot of that myself. But then learning about what you were teaching and all those things, I think the thing that really drew me to it is the opportunity to get out of my own head. And that opportunity is so rare for a lot of people, I feel like, because that's all we're in constantly, is our own head and our own thoughts and our own mind. But the idea to really have someone else let them in a little bit, let them see what is inside your head, and to kind of understand how other people see the world too, is incredibly helpful. Mm-hmm. And it builds community with human beings in general too, to see that as much as we have our unique personalities and our unique thoughts, there's also a ton of similarities all around. So that coaching helped me connect to a lot of people in that way too. Mm-hmm. So I didn't feel like I was just this lone crazy actor trying to make my way in life. But that was fun.
But I will say therapy is important. And I know therapy definitely has its place for, when people need that specifically. But I think life coaching just felt more like, I don't know, it didn't feel as heavy. I feel like therapy sometimes, when you think about going to therapy, it feels a bit more heavy and things like this. This just felt more like day to day. And I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's usually like the distinction is where your baseline is, kind of where you're starting from. Like therapies, if you're a little more and I'm not functioning the way I normally want to.
Or even like,
or,
I'm not functioning hardly at all.
Like it's hard for me to wake up, or it's hard for me to, go to work. And then life coaching is, I'm doing the things, but I just want to up level everything.
It's less about I'm not functioning and more about I don't feel like I'm progressing.
Or getting the results I want.
Yeah. And so I think you guys explained that pretty well. I think our exposure maybe was more critical to life coaching, honestly. I think we always ask people this. So did you think it was like really weird when you heard about it? Because that's exactly where we were coming from. We were like, what the heck is
a life coach?
Like, that sounds maybe like the most pretentious thing we've ever heard. So like, it's been interesting to watch Anna become one. And and like,
didn't see that coming.
And it's been pretty life-changing for us. But I need it. Like sometimes I'm just like, Anna, I need you to coach me. And yeah, anyway, we've talked about that on podcasts before, but just for Cooper and Emma, it's very interesting being coached by your wife, and especially when you're getting coached on your relationship. It's like, but she's a particularly talented coach, I think, in that she's able to maintain some objectivity when coaching, and then like the coaching concludes and she's like, so what's going on?
Coaching hat is off. Let's talk.
Let's fight. No, that doesn't happen. But I think that I think it's been kind of fun to watch, but I think that everyone talks about everyone in LA has a shrink, is what everyone says. And like you said, there's nothing wrong with therapy. And we really, I actually think culturally we're evolving past this like, oh, it's bad to get help mentality. But I also think that there's a lot of people that turn to therapy because they feel stuck in the sense that we're going into a very competitive field. I mean, you guys go into acting, and it's very competitive, and sometimes the progress feels slow. And we're usually comparing ourselves to celebrities. Whether we're directing or acting or writing, we're comparing ourselves to the best of the best. And then we feel like there's something wrong with us, like you were saying. And then when you can get some perspective on how your brain is working. I really liked what you said about this community with other human beings, that like there's so much similarity. All generally healthy brains function the same. Evolutionarily speaking, where we feel fear for certain things, we react certain ways. Our brain will try and find danger or problems, or analyze things critically, and sometimes it's just not helpful. and when you can step out and see what it's doing, you're like, okay, the brain's working. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. I'm able to just kind of see it more objectively and then make a better decision, because I'm like, I get what my brain is doing, and I get why I'm feeling all these feelings, and on that same note, it's kind of cool because Anna will break down scripts as a director based on the model, because she's like, what's this person believe, and what is that creating for them emotionally, and that's causing them to react this way, which the other character is going to perceive this way, and this is because their whole paradigm is built around this thing. I think great writers have been doing that to some degree. It's just an interesting lens to do it through. You get scenes where when you watch them or you read them, you're like, this character literally says the same thing. I think the whole scene, they just sort of change the vocabulary, but they literally are saying the same thing in different ways.
I often feel like the character arc is a belief shift. There's something that a character believes that motivates all the actions they're taking and the things that they're saying. And then towards the end, they find a new belief. And so it's like, that belief shift actually is a whole character arc, and it changes everything. And that's what's so cool about coaching being combined with film, because we love stories and we love character arcs, and we also love to have our own shifts where it's like, oh, wow, that made a huge difference when I changed this one thought. And I love working with my coach as well, having that outside perspective like you were talking about, where she'll point out something that I just could not notice because I'm in my own head. And she'll point it out and be like, look at what your brain's doing here. And we'll just laugh at it. Like, it's like, oh, wow, that's really funny. Because once you have the perspective, it seems so obvious. But when you're watching a movie and you watch the character, it's like, it's so obvious, like, oh, they just need to learn this or whatever.
Like, yeah, like Marlin is just way too uptight about Nemo, and he just needs to let him like live his life, man, and stop being such a helicopter dad. And it's so easy to see that from the outside, but then,
when
like,
you're in it, you don't see it.
You don't, yeah. And so it's this seismic shift, and it's like experiencing a movie plot twist.
Having someone who has that skill
session.
of being able to stand on the sidelines and tell you, you know, your form here. Now I'm going to an athletic, athletic metaphor. Your form here is doing this thing.
That's a coaching metaphor there. Yeah.
Anyway, now I lost it. But I love that. That's part of the value of having a coach or having those tools, so that you even mentioned you guys talk to each other and can get everything in your brain out. Do you guys still do that, or what does that look like for you?
Just waiting for that play to happen so we can get out of here. I'd say we have waves that we're so good at. And then we have times where we just get really tired.
Yeah.
And we don't do it. Sometimes we'll read books together and we'll just have great conversations of what we both feel about certain things or what we want to do with our life and things like that. And then there's times where we don't.
And it's almost like we forgot everything, and I just get sad and mad, and he'll try to like talk me off the ledge, and I'm like, no, just let me be sad and mad.
And get off my ledge.
Yeah. So it definitely comes in waves, but it's nice when we're on the same wavelength and we can have these really great conversations of like, wow, I'm like sad today and this is what I'm feeling. And he's like, well, have you thought about this? And I think this is where it might be coming from for you. And wow, I didn't think about that. So it definitely comes in waves of we have our weeks when we're just in sync, and then somewhere we're just like, you make me angry because you're in this room.
Yeah, it's so cool to see it. I mean, it was cool to coach both of you because you are married to each other. And that, I think, is the first time. Well, it wasn't the last time, but it was the first time I think that I had done that before. And for us, obviously, that's the case as well, where we can kind of remind each other. Like, he'll remind me, like, that's just a thought. It's optional.
Sometimes
and I'm like,
that's
stop
not
it.
helpful.
Like,
sometimes that's usually met with resistance. Sort of like informal marital coaching, I don't think is always the most productive.
Sometimes it can.
If we sit down and we really just say like, Anna, I need you to coach me, and then she's able to put her coaching hat on. But if it's like in the heat of the moment, it's like, that's a thought. You just stop thinking it.
I know thought, but I don't know what else to think.
And then that's usually met with resistance. I don't recommend it. But
yeah. Well, it's funny, when we were being coached, I had the thought, I was like, oh no, now in our arguments, he's going to try to life coach me. And like, I think he knew better though. He never tried that too much.
Yeah. Treaded lightly on that.
That's really funny. I remember hearing a stress therapy guy. Oh, he was actually his teacher, a professor at BYU. We were shooting a course on stress management, and he said, when someone is really, really high in terms of emotion, like emotional volatility, if you ask them to do math in their head, like do some math, it shifts the portion of the brain that they're using, and they're able to shift into a more logical portion of their brain. And he said, so they'll do this with children. He said, it'll help them calm down when they become really emotionally volatile. And I said, that's really interesting. Have you ever tried that with your wife? And he's like, no, I don't. That would be a bad idea. It's just do some math in your head, honey, right now, and you'll calm down.
It usually works in the reverse for me, where if someone tells me to do math, anything, I immediately get very angry.
It's like comfortable.
Opposite.
That's funny. That's awesome.
Well, it's amazing when we are emotional or under high pressure, you just like your logical brain turns off. Mm-hmm. We actually just played a game. I think it was called anomia. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. What? But that word actually means like that thing where your brain kind of turns off under pressure.
Oh, yeah. The card game was like...
Yeah, the card game...
If the two shapes match, you have to say the category that's written on the other person's card. So if we both have circles and her card says like...
Animal... I didn't do that one.
What were you gonna...
Animal noise.
No, don't. If her card says animal noise, I have to
say an animal
like,
noise.
Yeah, like dog barking or something.
Before I say what's on his card, which
might be like
say like famous, a type of food.
Yeah, type of food or whatever. So she has to say like broccoli before I say dog barking. But like literally when you see that they're matching, your brain just shuts down, like, and you're just like,
you're like the timer, and so you're like, I can't think of a single animal noise, like
it
or
just,
a single
you
food.
just instantly blank, and I literally blurted out like the most absurd sound. Like I didn't even say a word. I just went like, and like
it was animal sound. Though, so everyone was like,
everyone said that counted
because
they said it was an animal sound. I literally have no idea what animal sound I was trying to make. I literally just made, I think it was a Kent, I think. Was the animal sound.
A wild Kent.
Yes. And that's just how far my brain had shut down under pressure. So
it's so funny. I blurted out stuff that didn't make any sense as well. I remember.
This is what happens on film sets, I think.
It was like nuts. The category was a nut. And I said like a bean or something.
Oh yeah, you said like
bean.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
It was yeah, but on sets, I remember I'll do this. Like I'll imagine the whole movie and feel really confident, and then you get to set and it's just gone,
blank.
Like you just draw a total blank, and it just shows we really do need to do some homework before you show up and write some notes for yourself to get back. I don't know if you guys experience that as actors, where you're like, maybe you break down a script for yourself, or I don't know, this is maybe too much, but like I just wonder if actors feel the same thing, where they're just like, I memorize the lines and they're just gone, or I know how I was going to approach this, but I'm doing it, and I know that I had all these thoughts for how I was going to like put these things together or whatever. Maybe that's not even that productive as an actor, like just because you depend so much on the people you're doing the scene with, I feel like. But I don't know. I'm sure you guys have had long discussions about the approach to such dilemmas, but ours is just like this logistical thing where we're like, where was I going to put the camera? I don't even know. So.
It definitely happens for us as actors. I remember like my first film shoot out here in Utah was, first thing I'd done for a while because I didn't do much in New York. And I remember Cooper, like his biggest piece of advice to me was just like, just really have your lines down because you're going to show up on set, the lights, the mic, there's going to be a lot going on and you might forget your lines. So just make sure, we're really prepared. It even is as simple as that. It's just forgetting your lines, even when you had work to memorize it, because there are all those stresses on set and things like that.
Yeah. Lyrics are hard for me. I did some musical theater and like, I just can't memorize words. I just admire people that memorize things.
I think you're really good at remembering words.
I remember
like quotations.
I remember things that I hear audibly, but like memorizing words on a page is really hard. And with songs, it's a little trickier. Even though I hear it audibly, it's like it's poetically often they'll repeat each other, but not exact repetition. So like the nuances are just finer, and so like the thing in verse 2 that you're supposed to say in verse 1, it's just so like tricky. And yeah, if I was like quoting a movie though, I can quote movies because you've just heard it. If you watched Lord of the Rings so many times, you can remember that really cool thing that person said, but you haven't seen the movie when you're an actor, so I don't feel like I would be able to do that as well, because I'd just be going off of like, black and white paper. Anyway, we could probably talk to you guys all night. So
I'm sure we could. Yeah,
3-hour-long podcast.
We won't keep you forever, but are there any finishing thoughts that you want to share? And thinking about our audience, someone out there who maybe feels stuck or feels like they don't have control over their lives or they don't know how to move forward. What advice would you give to them? Or is there anything we haven't touched on that might help someone?
I guess my biggest piece of advice for anybody out there that might be a married couple in the industry, the thing that I have to remind myself is that on those days where you are comparing yourself, or, like even when for all of our self-tape, all our auditions right now are self-tapes. And it has been amazing because we are each other's directors and it's really helpful to have that outside look. But then sometimes when I'm in that mindset of competition, I start thinking like, oh, he's only giving me that note because he thinks he's better than me. He knows better than me. And so he doesn't think I'm good, and I start going down this road, but you just have to remind yourself at the end of the day, like he loves me, or like she loves me. She wants what's best for me. He wants what's best for me. And you just have to remind yourself of that instead of, I think I start looking into every little thing he does. And I'm like, well, why did he do that? Why did he do that? And it's like, we're both on our own careers. but together. So I don't know, you have to like step outside of your relationship sometimes, see like, okay, where is he coming from? Why is he doing that? And kind of with the coaching, like break down what's happening with them instead of always going to the first thought of like, he's against me or, like, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
I don't know if that was helpful, but
no, that is helpful. I struggle often with this thing. Anna's really good at it. I actually think we can't know what other people are thinking, right? And so it's the skill of assuming positive intent can be really hard, and competition ruins most things except sports. Really helps with sports, but it doesn't help with sports if you're competing with your teammates. And we have to remember, that we're on the same team. And that's something I think that changed for me. Like, I think it was very easy for me as a film student to feel competitive against my classmates and other people. And I've learned, like, if I had the power to make any one of my people that I've worked with super successful, that would be a win for all of us. Because if we're all tight and we're all working together and one of us has this big opportunity happen for them, you could say, wow, they're going to leave me in the dust and take that spot that I could have gotten. Or you could say, wow, look at all these opportunities that could open up for me now because that actor or that writer or that director or that person just got these great opportunities, and that's a win for all of us. And so for obvious reasons, I've invested heavily in Anna because I know that if she kind of has to take me with her. So I really want her to be successful. and then she could leave me behind, I guess, but I don't think she will. But she's told me she won't, so I'm just going on that. But yeah, so I really appreciate that honest answer. And I think it's something that I think everybody struggles with to some degree, either whether they're married to that person or not. It's like, I think when we assume positive intent and also take positive intent for ourselves and help people, I think that can be really, really awesome and powerful. But
yeah, even that line you said, on our own together, I thought that might even be a good podcast title for this one, but it's kind of that.
You just blew it. You just said it. It's like saying the trailer, like the movie title in the trailer. It's like,
okay, it's fine.
It's a megalodon. I shouldn't have done that. Sorry. No offense to anyone. That was rude. I like John Turteltaub. He's a great filmmaker. I grew up loving him. So, I just thought that line.
But that
funny.
is sort of like the dichotomy between we all want to be unique and different, and we are, and we also want to be united and together, and figuring out how those two fit together is, I think, a great challenge of marriage. And
period. Yeah, whether you're in the same crew or not,
or even working as a team, as a crew or with the cast. Finding how you fit together that way, it can be difficult.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Cooper, what was your closing sage advice before we conclude?
Yeah, my main thought, I think that we've kind of touched on already, but it's just to recognize the own barriers that we put up in our life, because we make so many excuses or so many reasons where we say or compare ourselves to celebrities, where we don't have this, so we can't do that. We can't do this, so we'll never be this. And if we really take a step back and focus on what we're thinking and say, what are my thoughts on this? What barriers am I putting up myself? We can start to whittle away at those, because honestly, we're all filmmakers. And there is no one in the world right now who can't be a filmmaker in some way. Because if they can't afford a camera, they can write little storyboards on a piece of paper. If they can't afford anything, they can start making a little script. They can start acting out characters in their mind, and they can work from that spot to get to where they want to go. And that's one thing that I had to realize, is where I thought, I don't have the money, I don't have the connections yet, so I can't write. These are all just barriers we put up ourselves, and be aware of those, take them down one by one, and you can literally take tons of steps no matter where you are.
Yeah.
Amen.
I love that. Well, and I think that those barriers, first of all, a lot of times we don't see them because we've created them ourselves. We don't know that they're there. So it's first recognizing it. And then also, like, it requires us to become someone different to overcome them. We have to become the person who can overcome that obstacle. And I think a lot of people just want to say, like, here's the to-do list. You just do these things and you'll have success. But it's not about what you do as much as who you are, because if you become the person who knows how to overcome that obstacle, and then you know how to overcome the next obstacle, then you eventually have overcome all the obstacles and you have your goal. that's all that's between you and your goal is those obstacles.
But the to-do list is unique. So, you have to come from it from like, no one can prescribe that for you.
The obstacles kind of become the to-do list. They become your like, first I need to develop whatever skill I need to overcome this obstacle. And then the next one becomes the next one. And those obstacles are actually the stepping stones.
Yeah, it's the direct path. It's the obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Well, you guys, man. Maybe we'll do like a part 2. We'll pretend like we recorded it next week, but we'll just record it right now. I'm just kidding. No, but
like our double date for the week.
Yeah. So you guys, it was super great having you guys on the podcast. We're really, really grateful for your honest insights and experiences. And we're just also grateful that we get to associate with you guys and watch you guys progress. And we're like big fans. So we will continue to stay in touch with you guys. And just, I guess, thanks again.
We're honored to have you.
Thank you so much for having us on. Yeah, it's been great to talk to you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time. If you want a successful career making feature films and a happy family at the same time, visit invisiblemansion.com/film and family, and you can apply for our next enrollment window in the Film and Family Academy, which closes July 1st, 2021. We only accept a select group of qualifying filmmakers each quarter.
If you qualify, you will receive private mentorship in addition to lifetime access to our library of courses. And our alumni are already realizing major career milestones and seeing dramatic transformations in their personal relationships. So if you don't want these results, don't apply.
If you do, visit invisiblemansion.com/film and family and click apply before July 1st of this year. Thanks so much.
Bye.
See you next time.